Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the latest edition of the SG3 show, coming at you as I like to do every chance I get, hopefully every weekday. At this time, as always, please hit the subscribe button down below. Follow me on social media at Sravan G News. IMSG, as you know. Um, New studio here today, as you can see, with a new background. We decided to modernize a little bit. Hopefully, it'll work out for us going forward. I want to thank anyone who's listening to this show. Please accept my humblest gratitude to you. But we begin today's episode with some of the breaking, or rather trending, news in the world of sports. Stuff that's trending right now, as you guys can see below. Want more of me? Please hit the subscribe button. You can check out my stuff. And as always, please keep those likes coming. But we begin today's episode with another story involving Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice arrested yet again. Now, Rice, as you know, is a former second round draft pick in 2023 for the Kansas City Chiefs out of Southern Methodist University, SMU. According to a report from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, there's a new criminal investigation into Rice in an alleged assault at a Dallas nightclub Monday, which is yesterday. The Dallas PDs responded to Lit Kitchen and Lounge on North Harwood Street in downtown Dallas, according to Fox 4 in Texas. The victim was not hurt, but was checked into a hospital and ultimately checked out. There's been no arrests made at the moment. And Rice has not been charged either. However, he's currently being charged with 8 felonies for a high-speed hit-and-run crash in late March that's injured 4 people on the Central Expressway. Rice and SMU cornerback Teddy Knox were seen speeding at more than 115 miles per hour. Rice also left the scene of the crash. First thing that comes to mind is this. Why are you wasting your life away? What purpose do you get out of wasting your life if you're Rashee Rice? You are on one of the more prominent teams in the NFL in the Kansas City Chiefs, who just won their second straight Super Bowl, their third in the last 5 years. They went to 4 of them. They won 3. You had an opportunity to be part of this team. You were one of the people taken excuse me, by general manager Brett Veach. You were supposed to help them. And what do? This offseason? You get yourself into trouble twice. First, it was speeding and you lead the crash. First and foremost, what the hell were you doing going 115 miles per hour? Yes, everything is bigger in Texas, including consequences. What are you thinking of yourself? And on top of it, you're in a club doing this kind of nonsense. Do you realize how embarrassing you've behaved? Andy Reid, who's been known to give second chances, he might not want to go through with this in the future. And if I'm him, I'm sending Rashee home. And if Rashee throws a tantrum, so be it. Why do I feel so strongly about this? Because in this point in your life, you are doing something that many others on the street who are younger than you, they'd be begging for that opportunity, knowing that they would not mess it up. You got that opportunity and you're wasting it. Do you realize how embarrassing you've behaved yourself right now, Rashee Rice? Do you realize that the reason they really drafted Xavier Worthy was the hope that potentially he could take over where you are if they have to release you? You realize you could be back in the streets permanently without any money? What are you thinking of yourself? Now, again, the headlines arrested yet again. I want to apologize. There's no official arrests at the moment. I'm going to update that right now. He's in the headlines. Let's update that. And again, my apologies to all of you for being there. He's in the headlines now. There we go. Much better. What other excuse or what other thing is there left to say? You are in the National Football League. They are paying you millions of dollars. And you can't keep yourself out of trouble and you just want to be in the headlines. What is wrong with you? Now, all those people that are yes men and consider him the golden goose, can y'all just put your screws together and start screwing yourselves back together instead of having a few screws loose? So you think just because he's making you money, all of a sudden you can act like yes men and not help the guy? There's a reason this man fell to the second round. But stuff like this probably was happening at SMU. Andy Reid took a chance, and look at what happens. The man don't know how to control himself. It is flat out embarrassing. But apparently I'm just a podcaster per se. It's stuff like this at this point in your life where you just wonder what is wrong with these guys. Being a professional athlete does not make you immune to anything, you know. You just got to do what you have to do. So, all I can say to Rashee Rice is, I hope he doesn't get in any more trouble. But knowing what we know, that third time might be the actual time. There's going to be some cuffs coming. But I digress. I mean, what else can you possibly say? The guy doesn't get it. He's wasting the Chiefs' time. He's wasting his coaches' times. He's wasting the effort of all the SMU coaches. I mean, heck, it's not like SMU was a squeaky clean. We all remember what happened in the early Eric Dickerson years and what that turned into. But once again, another issue coming out of SMU. So, who knows where we're going to be at this point? Who knows? But I digress. I'm going to go into now a little bit more of an interesting subject. For those of you who are affiliated with the game of football, you might know the name Antonio Brown. Yeah, the clown, as some of you will call him. But did you know that Antonio Brown was on a podcast? That's right. He was with Jason Whitlock, who everybody is probably familiar with Jason Whitlock on Fearless on Blaze TV. That, or you were too busy listening to Stephen A. Smith call him fat bastard. In a rather unprofessional rant, I might add. He kind of fell into that trap with Whitlock, but I digress. Speaking of Antonio Brown, he had some things he wanted to say. So what did he say? Well, I don't know if I want to be allowed to go into this without I don't want to be monetizing or whatever. Get into that issue per se, but what I do know is this. This dude is he's a joke. He basically wasted his career. He basically turned his back on everybody that tried to help him. And on top of it all, he's a pretty decent football player. For those of you who are wondering, how did this all go about? Well, some will blame the hit that Vontaze Burfict gave him on that night where he knocked him out and all of a sudden all hell broke loose. But I think if we're really being honest, it goes back to when he pulled that phone out in the locker room after the divisional round when the Chiefs were playing the Steelers and the Steelers upset en route to an AFC Championship game appearance against the Patriots in the 2016 season. Brown went, of course, live in the locker room, and Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe said on Fox Sports 1's Undisputed that Brown needed to be cut right away because it was going to get worse. Lo and behold, the Hall of Famer from Savannah State was absolutely correct. Brown became more of a headache, went on to the Oakland Raiders at the time, was a headache, played a game in New England before all hell broke loose and he was let go. Went to Tampa, kept his mouth shut, happened to catch a touchdown in the Super Bowl against Kansas City as Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl against the Chiefs 31-9. And then he turns his back on Tom Brady. We all know the last time we saw him on the football field, he was running around that Jets end zone before saying bye-bye. Then he takes shots at Tom Brady, goes at Tom's ex-wife, Giselle. All in all, he turned his back on number 12. And heck, he even went on Twitter to call TB a cracker. That was his thing. And if you don't believe me, I'm willing to show you all what this man posted on his social media. This dude is clearly an issue. This man is clearly an issue. And I'm sad to say that man has deleted that post. So, sorry I can't, oh wait, what am I saying? He's got it right here. My apologies. I've got the, tweet from Dum Dum. Get a load of this. That's his tweet right there. Call him a cracker. This image is from the roast that happened on the Netflix live special. Calls him that. Dum Dum, that guy took your butt in when no one was going to give you an opportunity. And here you are acting like a D fool. What else is this man going to do? Like, seriously, what is he going to do next? Y'all got suggestions? Y'all got ideas? You think that's the worst of it? This man clearly cannot control himself. How about this? You think that's crazy? Look what he does to Shannon Sharpe. Right there. Calls him the 18. This is the 18. That's Yosemite Sam. Like, what's your problem? Just want attention, don't you? Ain't no one give a bleep about you. Ain't nobody care about you, AB. Only reason we bring you up is because you actually have reason. We have a reason to bring you up for being a fool. You've burned bridges to the point where there's not even the greatest builders in the world can repair those. They probably don't even want to attend those projects. You just worthless, Antonio Brown. You're worthless. And you're better off not existing in social media. Go to the barbershop and do whatever you want there. Hell, go on any podcast and start doing it because you're not getting in the NFL. There are other people out there that deserve jobs and you don't. I don't care about your statistics. Yeah, you played well. So what? Be a decent human being for once. There's no real contrition inside of you. You know that? I'm sorry. It may come across harsh, but no one wants to deal with Antonio Brown. And shame on Jason Whitlock for bringing him on. I actually like the show Fearless. This is the one episode I really did not want Jason Whitlock to do. I don't want Stephen A doing with this guy. I don't want Club Shay Shay or Nightcap going with Antonio Brown. No matter what it is, keep that man away from your show. He will destroy you. And he ain't worth anything but a 5-letter word that starts with T and ends in RASH. I'm going to keep it clean with that. I'm not going to say the other words. That's what he really is. I still can't believe he was even allowed to talk about anything with Tom Brady. That man took your butt in when everything was not working for you, and you still do this? And it's already bad enough Giselle get angry at the roast. Now, as it pertains to that comedy roast, all jokes were good. The one joke I kind of had an issue with was this hanging with a ring around his neck, the suicide. I'm not for that one. Okay, that was when I was like, wait a second, I don't like joking about that, regardless of who the person is. I know Aaron Hernandez is a murderer. I get all that. But suicide in general is not something we joke about, regardless of who it is. So, other than that, it was all right. Everything was perfect on that. That was just the one joke. And that's just a small nugget I want to bring in there. There's a little bit more of an important stuff to get to. And again, this is not going to be a full-on hour show that you see on like Nightcap or the Stephen A. Smith show. There was something that happened in the WNBA that I feel needs to be brought to everyone's attention. Caitlin Clark, the former number 1 overall pick, actually most recent one, of the WNBA draft. She was taken by the Indiana Fever, who now compare her with Aliyah or Aaliyah Boston. Forgive me for apology. I have an apology here. I don't know how to pronounce it. Aaliyah or Aliyah. I'm sorry. But the South Carolina superstar is teaming up with the Iowa superstar to lead the Indiana Fever. Now, why would Caitlin Clark make news in a little bit of an issue here? It's not her fault. Contrary to what certain people in the world are saying, oh, they don't want her to succeed. Well, that's true. There's some people even in the media that don't want her to succeed. We saw with the broadcast. Some reporters were not exactly thrilled. Cheryl Swoops was one of them. Seemed to be rooting for her to lose. If that's not your mission, Cheryl, I apologize, but your actions kind of showed that. Anyway, speaking of Clark, there was an incident in an interview I think you all are very familiar with. Indianapolis columnist Gregg Doyel. He's got into a little bit of trouble. So what's the headline? Well, take a look at this. He's been suspended. The man has been suspended. Suspended for that interview press conference situation with Caitlin Clark. So what is that about? Take a look at this from Awful Announcing. Turns out Gregg Doyel is not going to get the front row view of this because he's been suspended for 2 weeks following the uncomfortable interaction with Clark. You know, that heart sign? Look at this. As a result, he won't be covering any Fever games in person during this rookie campaign, but he can still write his columns while being in remote. Clark answered a question about the heart sign. Gregg Doyel said, I like that you're here in Indianapolis. Okay. That's a fair comment. You can say that, no issues. Clark said he does it to her family, after every game. Doyle says, start doing it to me and we'll get along just fine. Excuse me? Clearly, it was a viral reaction and people were definitely offended, and rightfully so. But as you can see, according to the reports here, he did cover the NFL draft and the first round series for the Pacers against Milwaukee, but there's no stories coming out from him because of this suspension. He'll be back soon, but he ain't covering the fever. Now, Gregg Doyel, to me, it's a little bit interesting, but it goes beyond the Caitlin Clark fiasco. If you recall, during the college football season, this man took personal shots at Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines in response to the sign stealing allegations and Connor Stallions. He didn't vote for JJ McCarthy, and he just he seems to be rather, you know, he was offended by it. He was definitely against it per se. He didn't vote for J.J. McCarthy at all because he thought that it was tainted. And okay, but the NCAA said they haven't found anything as of yet. Yeah, they opened an investigation, but look at what happened. Michigan got the last laugh. So as it pertains to Doyle, there are Wolverines fans celebrating the news that he's been suspended for the Caitlin Clark thing, and they should celebrate the fact because what creepy reporter deserves to be in this business like this? Heck, we just saw Rob Parker in 2008. The comments made to Rod Marinelli about Joe Barry, who at the time was, if I'm not mistaken, still married to Rod's daughter. Parker asked, "You wish your daughter married a better defensive coordinator?" Parker was immediately suspended for it. Doyle suspended as well. So these columnists seem to be getting a little too familiar and comfortable with their position. But I digress. Because quite frankly, if I were a columnist, I will push for information. But I know my place. Heck, I was at an incident one time when I was in college. I became a fan on the air. I asked a opposing player to drop the ball in hopes of VCU winning, and well, I didn't. It wasn't a good moment for me there. I get it. You learn and you move on from it. As it pertains to Gregg Doyel, he may be a big time columnist, but he's not exactly a liked guy here. And I'm not saying he has to be the most loved person. Heck, Dan Shaughnessy is not even loved in Boston, and he's one of the big columnists of the Boston Globe. You have a job to do. You have to be professional. I get all that. But there comes a point in time where you cannot be an idiot. That's what Gregg Doyel was. And he probably, if he watches this, he's probably going to say, "What the heck does this guy know?" I'll tell you what I do know. I know I wouldn't have behaved that way. I'd have just asked the question, take notes, move on. Because I'm not getting myself suspended. I'm trying not to be the story. I would report the story. If I got an opinion on something, I'll leave it to myself. The columnist, you have to take one side and write like in that way. I get all that. But you don't make yourself the story in any way. That's the first rule we learned. And I want to thank my professors for that. The late Marianne Owens, Jeff South, Reba Hollingsworth, Alani Hill, Tim Bykevich, Mallory Perryman, Angie Miles, Gary Gillum, Bill Oglesby, all of them, the same exact lines. Don't make yourself be part of the story. If I missed any professors, I apologize. But that's what it was. That's how it's going to be. Gregg Doyel screwed up. That's on him. That's all I got to say about that. That does it for tonight's episode. Thank you so much for watching. As always, please hit the subscribe button down below. This is the SG3 Podcast. You can find me as Travanji News on Twitter. This is the SG3 Show. Excuse me. We got a new name here, a new logo. Check it out. Not too shabby. Shout out to Canva and StreamYard for that. You can find me, the SG3 Show, on YouTube. Travanji News on Twitter. As always, thank you so much for watching. And as always,